The Miami Heat may be in a position to conduct a major blockbuster trade this offseason. I'm here to break down a brand new article that ties the Miami Heat to superstars like Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, as well as even Damian Lillard. We'll break down all of that on this episode of Heat Digest, but please do remember, if you're a part of the near 80% currently watching this video, not currently subscribed to the channel, to scroll down and smash that subscribe button. We do appreciate all the love and support, so thank you guys. But now let's get to it and break down the major new offseason news that we have surrounding this Miami Heat team. And we're going to start with an article written and published on Clutch Points by Brett Siegel. Now, we've referenced him many times before on this channel, and he's very, very accurate in the sense of he gets in the right ballpark. Now, he might not give you the exact scenario and how it's going to play out 6 months prior, but it gives us a good idea of what this offseason may look like and how there's going to be a lot of substantial pieces possibly on the move, with the chance of landing in Miami for a few of them. So he goes on to tweet this: "It's Friday, meaning it is time for a new Siegel's Scoop Intel column on @ClutchPoints." And he goes on to reference Giannis, Kevin Durant, the Kings, the Pelicans, and a bunch of other things in this tweet, as well as this article. If you click on the link or the photo of the article, it takes you to the article, which opens up with this: the Minnesota Timberwolves, Houston Rockets, Dallas Mavericks, Miami Heat, Golden State Warriors, and the Atlanta Hawks all held discussions with the Suns at the trade deadline, sources said. Both Booker and Durant came up in these trade talks, some being more angled towards the future than at the deadline itself. Now, this is a conversation that we had ad nauseum earlier, just a few months ago, during the NBA regular season, approaching the February 6th NBA trade deadline, as Jimmy Butler was still a resident of this Miami Heat organization, and he was hell-bent on forcing his way out, with hopes to land in Phoenix to play alongside Kevin Durant, a longtime friend of his. Now, that obviously did not happen. He ended up out in the Bay Area, playing alongside Steph Curry and Draymond Green in Golden State. But in doing so, the Phoenix Suns kind of shot themselves not only in one foot, but in both feet. And the reason I say that is because Matt Ishbia, as well as others involved with that Phoenix Suns organization, never went and contacted players like Devin Booker or Kevin Durant to inform them that they are actually being shopped on the open market right now, to possibly see what they can turn a very quality piece, whether it be Booker or Durant individually, we could only assume, into a rehashing and a regrouping of the NBA team in the Phoenix Suns, as this year and the year prior just simply failed. It was a dumpster burn of a season, involving the amount of talent that they had in a loaded Western Conference. Yes, but again, not making the playoffs is never going to get the job done, especially when you have all-star level caliber players, as well as Hall of Fame level players in Kevin Durant as well as Devin Booker headlining your team. Now, with that being said, there were a slim amount of conversations at the deadline revolving around Durant and possibly ending up in Miami if there was a one-for-one swap for Jimmy Butler. We ended up learning on the Dan Le Batard show just days after the February 6th deadline that those conversations were real. The only problem was it wasn't a one-for-one swap, Butler for Durant. It was Durant for Butler and the entirety of the Miami Heat organization. So now, once we do reach this offseason point where there are transactions looking to be made amongst these organizations, we can only assume the Kevin Durant asking price coming from Matt Ishbia and the rest of the Phoenix Suns organization is going to be drastic. And I'm not saying a bit drastic. I'm saying they're going to be looking to reset their franchise due to what they gave up in order to go out and land someone in Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets. Now, there are no odds currently to get Kevin Durant this up-and-coming offseason like we do have for Giannis as well as Damian Lillard. But if we look at the contract situation going on with Kevin Durant right now in Phoenix, he's currently 36 years of age in the year of 2024-2025. And in this season, he's getting paid $51 million. And next season, he will still be under contract with the Phoenix Suns for $57 and some change. Again, that is $57 million and some change next season for the 2025-2026 NBA season, where Durant will then be 37 years of age. Yes, he's an older player at this point in his career, but the skill level and talent and the overall bag that he maintains on the basketball floor, offensively and defensively, are still undeniable. Now, that will be the last season that Durant is under contract. So the following season, this up-and-coming NBA season ahead of us after this up-and-coming offseason, will be the final year under contract for Kevin Durant under the current contract he is currently constructed on. Following that season, he will be an unrestricted free agent, meaning he can walk to free agency and he can test the open market. He will then be going into his age 38 season, so things will be a bit different to say the least. But he's not the only person we're having conversations with. As the article written by Brett Siegel that we mentioned earlier goes on to say, the Heat, Brooklyn Nets, and the New York Knicks have always been mentioned as suitors for Giannis. Out of these three teams, the Nets obviously have the most to offer. Sean Marks and his front office created a plethora of financial flexibility when they traded away Kyrie Irving and Durant, and they have a lot of draft assets to utilize how they wish. And this is what we were referencing earlier in the video when the Phoenix Suns went out to acquire Kevin Durant via trade from those Brooklyn Nets after we watched it simply not work, as Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving all found themselves on the Brooklyn Nets. Despite not playing alongside one another in a bunch of those regular season games, they still were on the active roster together despite it being a short tenure and not very successful. They still had a wild asking price in order to go out and get these big name stars, resulting in the Phoenix Suns paying a very, very high premium in order to land the multiple-time All-Star, multiple-time scoring champion in Kevin Durant in their organization. Now, Giannis is the main topic of conversations. We really covered Kevin Durant earlier in this video, and now we have odds for Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is the first time in a very long time. Usually these pop up in very small moments during the regular season when the Bucks are simply failing and Dame is out with injury and Giannis has to carry and it doesn't work because he simply can't do it all by himself against other professional athletes on the NBA stage, at least not consecutive games, game after game. NBA Central went on to post Bovada officials' official odds on Giannis's possible next landing spot, where those Brooklyn Nets, who we just referenced with all the draft capital that they do have, are listed as the favorites at minus 210, minus 200, which is craziness to say the least, as it seems like they're basically labeling the Nets not only as the favorite, by the clear favorite to land Giannis Antetokounmpo as possibly the next team to get him. And again, you see the Miami Heat listed in the fourth spot in the sense of favorites, just behind the Spurs at plus 325, then the Los Angeles Lakers at plus 400, and then you find the Miami Heat at plus 500, only in front of the Toronto Raptors, who find themselves at plus 1600 to land Giannis Antetokounmpo as possibly the next team. It's interesting. Whether or not Giannis does walk this free agency, or I shouldn't say walks, but demands his way out of Milwaukee, will really come down to the playoff success. This is really, it resembles the conversation we just had on this channel revolving around Damian Lillard, the co-partner to Giannis Antetokounmpo out in Milwaukee. Now, he's obviously been surrounded in conversation surrounding him in the Miami Heat for seasons now before he even landed in Milwaukee. That obviously did not happen in the sense of coming to Miami. He did land in Milwaukee, and in doing so, he's playing alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo. But now, if things do not work again this playoff series, or this end of the year in this playoff run for the Milwaukee Bucks, they do get past the Pacers and they do get bounced in the second or even third round, we could see Giannis really flare up and just demand his way out of Milwaukee due to the lack of success and overall the lack of help really given him. He came back, they got Damian Lillard, which is great. Lillard is a phenomenal player, and he's a show-stopping talent, one of the best guards in the entirety of the NBA without a doubt when he is healthy. But Chris Middleton really wasn't the guy they were expecting him to be, returning from injury, really came off as a bench guy. Gary Trent Jr. is one of the better players in the sense of role players that they have out in Milwaukee, coming off a 37-point performance that propelled them to that 16-point win over the Indiana Pacers just 2 nights ago in Milwaukee in Game 3 to get a 2-1 deficit rather than being down 3-0. I think if that does not happen, they do lose that third game to the Indiana Pacers and do go down 3-0. I believe this conversation is drastically different in the sense that we could definitely be in the idea and in the ballpark that Giannis is definitely walking or demanding his way out this offseason. And like we mentioned earlier in this video, the Miami Heat are second in the sense of favorites to land Damian Lillard, the counterpart to Giannis Antetokounmpo out in Milwaukee, for the possible next team that he will land on. Now, just behind the Orlando Magic, which scares the hell out of me because Dame out in Orlando would be it'd be great to watch in the sense of a fan of basketball, playing alongside players like Wendell Carter and Paolo Banchero and the other young talents that they have, Franz Wagner. I would not want to see him so many times a year. I would rather him to be out of the division, let alone in the conference, for this Miami Heat team. It's going to be interesting. A lot of different pieces out and possibly available this offseason. It's just going to come down to the asking price. We discussed the asking price of Kevin Durant and how it's going to be drastic, like we saw at the deadline. But for Giannis, we can only assume it will be even more, involving multiple teams, multiple assets, both draft and player assets, involved in this trade in order to get the multiple-time All-Star and possibly a future Hall of Famer in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Let me know down below, out of all three guys that we went through today, who would you like to see in a Miami Heat jersey next season? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.